Hi, Lena.
Hey Rory, how are you?
I am okay. How are you?
Doing well, doing well.
We're in the right place, huh?
Yes, yeah.
Hi, Lena. It's Robin.
Hey Robin, how are you?
Good. How about you?
Good, good. Yeah, happy that it's almost Friday.
Yeah.
Are you doing the staff report?
Yes, I am.
Good.
Yeah, and I think Peter will be joining us too, just in case.
Is John out?
Yeah, he's out today and tomorrow.
Good. Good for him. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's public hearing. My name is John Urino. I'm the zoning examiner for the city of Tucson. I conduct rezoning hearings on behalf of the mayor and council and make findings of fact, which I put into a written report along with my recommendation, which I then send along to the mayor and council for their consideration and for their final decision. My report will be based on the information submitted to me, which includes the rezoning application, the staff report, all written approvals and protests, all correspondence, and the testimony given at tonight's hearing. I will also include in the record all documents submitted to me up to the close of the public hearing. We have one case on for hearing this evening. It's case C9-2207, CAP Storage Development, Wilmot. Ms. Perrella, will you present the staff report?
Yes.
Thank you.
This is a request by Rory Juneman and Robin Large of Lazarus and Sylvan PC on behalf of the developer / applicant CAP Storage Development LLC to rezone approximately 1.6 acres of a 2.4 acre project site from C1 commercial and P parking to C2 commercial zoning. The project site includes 2 parcels comprised of vacant land located near the northwest corner of South Wilmot Road and East 14th Street. The remaining 0.8 acres of the project site will remain P parking and will be used for new parking and landscaping only. The preliminary development plan proposes a 3-story personal storage building that has the look and feel of an office or retail building. The design includes a climate-controlled storage units and a centralized interior loading and unloading area. The storage units will be access controlled and limited to customers only. A 500-foot office space will be located on the first floor of the building. The existing P zoning does not allow commercial development, and the C1 zoning allows a maximum height of only 16 feet for personal storage uses. To accommodate the proposed 40-foot height of the structure, as well as developing in the portion of the parcel zone P, the applicant is requesting a rezoning to C2. Plan Tucson and the Broadway Craycraft Area Plan provide policy direction for this rezoning site. And the proposed rezoning is consistent with and supported by policy direction provided in Plan Tucson and the Broadway Craycraft Area Plan. Subject to compliance with the preliminary conditions, approval of the requested rezoning is appropriate. And as of this public hearing, there has been 1 approval and 5 protests.
Thank you, Ms. Perrella. Mr. Juneman, would you like to be heard?
Yes, Mr. Urino, thank you. First of all, for the record, I'm Rory Juneman from Lazarus and Sylvan, 5983 East Grant Road. We represent CAP Storage Development. They're out of Greenville, South Carolina, but we've been working with them on multiple projects here in Tucson. They've been in the market for a couple of years. We're doing this rezoning so they can, or they desire to build a multi-story personal storage on a vacant land that is actually an infill site that was previously developed. So with me this evening here in our office in Tucson is Robin Large, our senior land use planner. And then coming to us from Greenville, South Carolina, are both Brody Glenn and Doug Wynn from CAP. And I'd like to have Brody, he's going to speak a little bit later tonight about the project, but I'd like to have him just briefly introduce himself and give you kind of an overview of CAP development.
Thank you. Mr. Glenn, please begin with your address.
Yes, sir. So my address is 12 Woodland Way Circle, Greenville, South Carolina, 29601. Thank you all for having us tonight. I'm president of Centennial American Properties. We're a real estate development company from Greenville, South Carolina. In our hometown, we've done a lot of different types of developments, from mixed use, baseball stadiums, big mixed use projects. But on the road, we have been, over the last 20 years, retail developers. We've done retail development from the state of Washington all the way to Florida. Over the last 4 or 5 years, we have switched our focus to self-storage. And currently we've got 8 storage facilities similar to the one we're talking about tonight that are open, and 32 more throughout the country that are in either under construction and development or entitlements. So we've got 7 projects in Tucson that we're working on currently. We haven't started construction on any. We hope to start in the next 30 days on a couple. So once again, thanks for having us.
Thank you, Mr. Glenn. Mr. Jewman?
Yeah, thank you, Brody. Both thanks to Brody and Doug. It's 9 o'clock there, so we appreciate them joining us late. Mr. Urena, are you okay if I switch over to the slides?
Sure, please go ahead.
Okay. Can you see that?
Yes, thank you.
All right, great. Okay, so just kind of an overview of the property. As Ms. Perel said, we're right off of Wilmot, kind of on the southeast side of Park Place Mall. We're not on the mall proper, but we do share an access with Park Place Drive with the mall, plus a couple of access points off of Wilmot. The property actually used to contain, or the site where we're developing used to contain kind of a big box store, about a 33,000 square foot building with, it was about 20 feet in height. I couldn't find what it actually used to be, but it was some sort of big box store. It had a nursery center on the south end. But that was demolished around 2006 timeframe based on the aerials from the city website. This is currently what it looks like. It's now a vacant parcel. Right now, it's one parcel with our vacant site and then the building that's to the east of us. But the current owners will split that into actually 3 parcels, ours, and then split the eastern side into 2 parcels. The uses around us now are mostly commercial. Commercial to the north, which is the LA Fitness and some of the other businesses that are towards the Broadway and Wilmot intersection. To our east is a strip of commercial on the other side of Wilmot. Parking and commercial to our west for mall parking and the Park Mall. And then to our south, some commercial along Wilmot, office that's right next to us, and then kind of kitty corner to us on our southwest is the beginning of some residential or townhouses along that strip. But in between us and the office and the commercial and the residential to the south is 14th Street. There is no access from 14th Street into our property. All of our access will come from Wilmot and Park Place Drive. Now, we are, the area in black is the parcel that Centennial is going to acquire, but we're only rezoning about 2/3 of it, the area in the orange. And the reason for that is that we've kind of structured our rezoning based on the Broadway Craycroft area plan. Ms. Perel had mentioned that we conform with both Plan Tucson and the Broadway Craycroft plan. But the reason for that is we've sort of structured it to only rezone the areas that the Broadway Craycroft plan designate as the commercial in its commercial district node. The western portion of our parcel under the plan is designated as parking, and that area we're keeping as parking. So it's currently zoned parking. We're not going to be changing that zoning on that portion of the property. The portion that is designated commercial district node in the plan, though, that's what we're requesting to rezone to C2. The current zoning, you'll see most of that, the rezoning parcel is C1. A portion of it is P, but that portion that we're rezoning from P to C2 is within the planning area that allows commercial. The planning area, the portion of the P zone that is in the parking planning area, we're keeping as parking.
Mr. Jewman?
So, yes, Mr.
I had
Urena.
a quick question while you have that graphic up.
Sure.
The rezone to C2 piece, how does that correspond to the footprint of the actual construction? If there's a later slide that shows that, that's okay. I can wait, but.
Yeah, the footprint, I think there is a slide that should show that coming up. What I can tell you is the footprint is fully within the rezoning area, and there's buffer on all sides of the rezoning area. So there's no area where I think that it's going to butt up against the
Okay.
building footprint is going to butt up against that. But we'll confirm that here in a few slides.
Great, thank you. Go right
There's a
ahead.
slide that'll go through and show that, and we'll go through that in just a minute.
Okay.
Thank you. Go right ahead.
So the reason for the rezoning, I think you're probably familiar with this, Mr. Urino, that C1 permits personal storage. So we're not asking for a rezoning other than the P section of our rezoning area, but the C1 section permits personal storage. It's just that under the code sort of has contemplated the old style personal storage, where there are long rows of single-story metal kind of garages. All the access to those storage units are from the outside. But modern storage really is much different. And we had a case for you, I think it was last year. You may have had other cases that show this, where modern storage really is, it's taller, it's on a smaller footprint, and so it needs more height than what the C1 code allows. So that's why we're asking for C2 zoning. The project that Centennial is proposing it's multi-story, it's climate controlled. All of the access to the units is from the inside. So there's a driveway that basically runs through the middle of the building that's security controlled. Customers come into that and then do all of their loading and unloading from inside. So there really is no impact for that loading and unloading on the surrounding areas. There's no gates or fences that are around the property because everything's security controlled at the building. The only exception here is on 14th Street. We will be doing some screening walls on the south edge of our project between us and 14th, but that's more for screening and buffering, not for security, not really related to the use. This use is extremely low traffic. I think our average daily trips in our traffic report was around 149, 150 average daily trips for the entire day. So it really is a very, very low traffic use. And the result is that there isn't really an impact on the surrounding areas other than the building itself. But beyond that, there's no odors, there's no noise. The light pollution is really governed by the outdoor lighting code, which we'll comply with. There are some conditions that we're agreeable that we won't have signage on the south or to the west where that faces the residential areas. So there's really very little impact. It's also very secure. It's all controlled access through a key code or a keypad or a code access for the customers. Cameras on the inside in all the public areas keep it secure, as well as the exterior cameras around the outside. And really the design is, right now, I think there's some issues with sort of transient and trespassing, and I think by us being there, that'll help cut that down. But two, the project's really designed to make sure that's not an issue that comes up from the development. So with that, I think I'd like to turn it over to Brody to just kind of walk through first a few examples of their other projects, and then to focus on this project here. So
Thank you.
Brody?
Yep. Thanks, Rory. That was a perfect introduction. Yeah, so our building is set up, and for situations just like this, is that we knew from our history doing retail is the more that we can contain inside of our building, the less questions there are as far as our use, the less noise there'll be, less safety issues, all those things. We still wanted to have a way for our customer to load and unload secure and preferably out of the weather. And so getting rid of all the gates, we had to find a way to do that creatively. And so all of our buildings, or most all of our buildings, have this vehicular pull through. So it's a 30-foot drive that actually goes through the buildings. And so the customer will pull up and either, as you can see here, there's a little punch code, or with their phone, open the garage door. They'll pull their car into the building. The garage door will close behind them. There's two elevators directly off of that. And so that allows us to really handle any security questions, noise questions, odor, any of those questions, because we contain everything physically inside the building. This is a store that's in Wichita, Kansas. Very similar store. The finishes will be a little different, more to match the Tucson feel, but this gives you an idea of what the building will look and feel like. And this building will be operated by Extra Space Storage, as the rest of them are. This is another building, one that we're actually doing in Tucson. This is the older elevation, I'll say. We changed it because I feel like it looked like Home Depot more than it should. But this gives you an idea of somewhere that we've done retail. It's something we'll do in areas where cities ask us to. I go back and forth on whether it's good. The big thing is for it to make sure we can fill it up, which we think we can do here. But you'll see here, kind of halfway down the building, is the pull-through little sales office with a tower there with faux doors that look like storage units, but really aren't. They're just faux. Next slide. This is a store that we did in Valdosta, Georgia. As you can see, the buildings are all very similar, changing materials and textures to fit in within the area we're developing. This is an old textile mill. You can see the mill stack or the smokestack in the rear. And so we matched that up with the windows and whatnot. So this is our site plan. So just to give you some bearing, the 14th Street's to the south, Wilmot will be to the east or to the right, Plainview right. The parking will be Plainview left, and then the mall will be Plainview north. The yellow area is the area you're talking about the rezone area. And so our south wall is 40 feet from the property line. As you can see, I was chairman of the City of Greenville Planning Commission. We try our best to keep in mind the neighbors and do developments that we'd want to be adjacent to or have our family adjacent to. Our building is to the east of any of the residential that's to the south of us. Therefore, trying to protect as much as we can the view corridors. Our building pad is really close to where the original building was back 30 years ago. And then part of the parking area, we're making green space just because we don't need all of that parking. There's no reason to have an impervious area if not needed. And we're doing LID area on the south side, and we'll also have some extra landscaping just as a buffer.
What's LID?
Low impact development, I'm sorry.
Got it, thank you.
Next slide. This is the elevation that we're proposing here. As you can see, neutral tones really fit into the Tucson market. All local plant materials that will meet the landscaping requirements. There's no retail here. This is a building that we've built a number of times, just with veneers and finishes that are different. It's a building that I'll tell you has been very popular throughout the country. And will be an amenity for the density that y'all are creating there in Tucson. This is the view from the north looking south. As you can see, we've got an extra space sign there. We do not have an extra space sign on the west side, which is Plainview right there, or do we have a sign on the south side? There's the south side there. And one of the things that I'll say that we've done on purpose here is that we've eliminated all the windows that the residences would be able to see for a couple of reasons. One is most of the times people don't want any windows so they can see down in their yard. And also it cuts down with the light that would come through those windows. And so all of our lighting will be done. We'll meet all the lighting criteria. We're done by wall packs or regular street lights. Our lighting is not near as intensive as you see for retail. It's really there for life safety.
All right, I think that's it for the renderings, Brody.
Yep.
And so I think I saw the drive-through will be east to west.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we did that for it was one way, and so we have it going from Wilmot from east to west there. We did that one because the building's skinnier that way, but also we thought it would be less like we were trying to get away from the net residences as much as we can. And that way the lights won't shine towards them. There won't be as many cars, but honestly, there's just not a lot of trips here.
How many units will you have, storage units?
So on average, it's 75,000 square feet leasable, and on average, they're about 100 square feet, and so about 750.
Thank you.
And to give you an idea, less than 10% of our customers or tenants come once a month.
Sure. Okay. Rory, is it over to you now?
Yes.
So I have two questions real quick, if that's okay. The
Yeah,
first
please.
is, tell me about the landscaping that's planned on the south side, A, and then B is, I was out at the property and noticed the rather robust vegetation along the wash. And what happens with that?
Yeah, good question. So along our south, and Brody, you can jump in, but we will have a landscape buffer that will be, well, we're going to extend the wall that I think ends sort of in this area. That wall will be extended along our property. So I think that we'll have some of that landscape buffer that's within our property, and then I think everything outside the wall is right away. So the landscape buffer will be on the inside of our property line. I think that's
that's the way it's designed. I mean, you can go back and forth on whether we should have some of the landscaping should be on the south side or should it be on our side. It's really a matter of an opinion. The other thing is this LID area or low impact development area. I don't have the plan in front of me. We should be able to plant that as well and get some vegetation there. So there is some buffer there on the south side. And that's also the reason why we've created this landscape area in the rear, is to create that buffer with the residences. The best long-term plan for these types of developments, especially with residential adjacent, is to try to do as much of a buffer and landscaping as you can between the two. And long-term, that will be, our building is big. I mean, that's what people complain about, but it's really a very quiet use and a low impact use as far as traffic and other things. And so if we can landscape it the right way, which we will, then with time, the building kind of goes away.
Thank you, Mr. Glenn.
And Mr. Urino, we worked with city staff, particularly engineering staff. That was one of the things that they had sort of suggested and wanted us to do, mainly because there's a lot of parking lot in this area that's really kind of underused. And so, and then there is a bit of a floodplain over towards that landscape area. The FEMA floodplain is not on our parcel that we're developing on, but it is over on this western landscaped area. So the thought was that by taking away some of the parking that really isn't utilized, you create pervious area, and it just helps with the overall drainage condition, but also serves as a buffer for, as Brody had said, serves for a buffer for some of the neighbors that are to that southeast. And then he's correct about the low impact development area is really where for the commercial rainwater harvesting, and that's the area where the first kind of flush of rainwater goes. So that'll be landscaped as well. It's a perfect place for landscaping where you can pick up rainwater harvesting and help, helps with the landscaping over time, obviously.
And then the wash, as far as the wash goes, is we're leaving the wash intact. I think it's actually protected. But yeah, even though there is some of the wash that's on our property, it's not something that we're developing in. And then the other thing is there's a floodplain that runs right through here. That's one of the things that we've dodged with the corner of our building there, on the northwest corner, is making sure we stay out of that floodplain.
The one exception, though, is this green area here. Parks and DTM has asked for a 25-foot easement There's the Alamo Greenway. It's kind of a parklet, multi-use path that extends. It starts. I can't remember where it starts. It starts up by at least by Grant and Craycroft, and I think it actually starts even further east than that. But it runs from that area south along the edge of through some neighborhoods and along this area. So what the city is asking in the rezoning is a dedication of easement, and either either building this area or participating in in lieu fee, which probably makes more sense because I'm not aware of how far along this is on a broader project. But that's in one of the conditions, and we're agreeable to that. We're working with DTM and Parks to kind of figure out the actual details of that. But as far as the easement goes, that's not an issue, and we're working on the details of the fee or the design of that greenway. So whatever in that area, the vegetation obviously would be possibly adjusted, but the north of that in the wash, that's outside of our property, and we wouldn't be touching that.
Let me rephrase what I said. It's not for we're not doing anything for our development. The city may come along and do the trail, which I'm actually personally a big fan of. We have one here in Greenville that, as chairman of the planning commission, I have to say I was not in favor of. Or 2019, we had over 1 million people use that in a year. And it's been extremely popular and something that people, now there's actually multifamily developments getting done adjacent to and surrounding the trail. And so I think it's a great thing if you can do it. But once again, I mean, my preference would be to do a fee in lieu, that way they can build it all at the same time. But that's really more of the city's call than ours.
Okay. Mr. Jewman, anything else?
I just wanted to mention that for our outreach, we did do our formal neighborhood meeting on 18th of May. We had about 5 or 6 people show up, including actually a council member, Kozaczyk. And I think really most of the questions, and there were some concerns in that meeting, but I think walking out, people were, we answered their questions and they didn't seem to have any concerns. We've had some other calls with some neighbors since then. I did want to acknowledge we did get more protests. We were kind of surprised at the number of protests we got, just because we hadn't had a lot of phone calls on this. Our neighborhood meeting was sparsely attended. I did want to address something that was in a few of those protest letters regarding 2 things. One, view shed. As Brody mentioned a little bit earlier, our building is to the east. It's not directly across from any of the single family, the townhouses that are to our southeast. So I just wanted to kind of show in this exhibit how, I mean, you were out there today, there's pretty mature trees on the south side of our property along that stretch of 14th. And then really for view sheds, the buildings that are kitty corner to us will be blocking some of the view of the Catalinas, but as you move west, then that view shed impact is much less. And then there were some comments about valuation. This area has been commercial. It had development on it. It's an infill site where we're kind of redeveloping the site. So I don't think that our project will have any impact on, or at least any negative impact on the valuation of the homes or the businesses that are around us. So, and then just to finish up, you know, we've looked at the conditions, we're agreeable to them, and we just respectfully request that you provide a recommendation to approve, and we're happy to answer any more questions that you have.
I don't have any further questions right now, Mr. Jewman, and thank you, Mr. Glenn. Would anyone else in the audience like to be heard on this case? Hearing no one, one more question, Mr. Juman. You did say that the height limit in C1 for a storage use is 16 feet. What's the height limit in C1 for a non-storage commercial use?
Yeah, it's 30 in C1, it's 30 feet, and then C2 is 40 feet.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, thank you very much. Mr. Glenn, thank you for participating as well.
Yes. Thank you.
And I'm going to close the public hearing and thank you all. I hope everyone has a safe and lovely evening. Good night.
All right, you too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.